This episode of FilmRiot is brought to you by Domain.com. Welcome to FilmRiot Mondays. Before we get into questions, just wanted to remind you guys that today is Cyber Monday, which means it's the last day of our massive sales. A ton of you guys took advantage of our sales on Friday. Actually broke the website at one. You broke it. You broke it. You broke the website at one point. But for those of you who haven't taken advantage of the sales, today is the last day to do so. Go here to get all the info. There's different sales happening at different times and an overarching sale that's happening all day, but you can find all the info right there. So if you're looking to get some of our assets, including our new Hits and Risers pack, which I designed, and the new Writing 101 pack with Seth Worley, which has some amazing info for writers in it, definitely go here, check that out. But now let's get into some questions. First question, what is the most embarrassing moment in FilmRiot, in or out of the camera? I don't know that there is one. None of us really get embarrassed that easily, and the things that do embarrass us, we just don't do them. You have closer calls than I do. Cut off jeans, shorts, half shirt, washing my car in front of my neighbor's while I squirted you with a hose.
Yeah, but that wasn't embarrassing.
No, not really.
I didn't really care.
You know, there's one thing that's kind of embarrassing is the Ford Fiesta ad now. I still love it. Don't get me wrong. And it's one of our biggest ads.
No.
So it always comes up in like production meetings and stuff. Over the past few months, it's come up like 3 or 4 times. One of the times it was just me and 2 dudes who are a lot like us. So it's like, that was just funny. It was just fine. But the other ones is like boardroom type stuff, people with ties, and it comes up and they're like, oh, let's watch it. No, it's not on the internet anymore, probably. And then I have to sit there while a bunch of corporate people who don't get the humor sit there in silence watching it. That's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, but there's no shame in comedy.
But there's always one person who saves me, who's midway through, you just start hearing, and you're like, okay, that guy gets it.
Yeah, John Goodman. John Goodman's in the room.
I guess that, but other than that, I don't think there is anything. What is your favorite aspect / stage of producing FilmRiot every week? Coming up with the ideas is always, I love coming up with ideas. I love the when there's like this blank slate and anything could happen, and then you find restrictions and you start putting ideas onto those restrictions. So you know you have X amount of time, you have these assets, and then you put ideas to those things and try to cultivate the best idea possible out of those things. I've always been a big fan of that sort of process. And I like editing FilmRiot a lot. That's fun because we do it so quickly that it's like grabbing all these puzzle pieces in the most insane way possible. And then once we're editing, it's fitting those together to make something entirely coherent, which is a nice challenge too. So I guess those two would be the most fun parts of FilmRiot. What is the best way of keeping your subjects in focus while moving the camera around using a Steadicam? The best way, and the way you're gonna find on pretty much any pro shoot, is a wireless follow focus system with focus puller off camera on a monitor, pulling focus for you while you're working the Steadicam. The only other thing that you really can do without messing up your shot is autofocus. A lot of cameras have some fantastic autofocus nowadays, like the C300, C100 Mark II, the new Sonys have some really good autofocus capabilities. So you can do that. It's limiting, but you definitely can do it. But the best way to do it to get the best results is to have a focus puller off of the camera. What is your favorite lighting technique? I don't think I have a favorite. I think it's just what I'm trying to pull off at the time. I mean, a lot of stuff that I love doing is dimming tungsten lights to get more of an orange color to it. I love doing that. I really love soft light. So bouncing light off things, shooting light through, thick sheets and things like that, really softening up the lights. I love doing that. And I'm a big fan of putting light behind my subject, so either on a wall to separate them or a backlight and letting the front of them go very dim. I'm a fan of that. And I love me some highlights, obviously. So, the obvious things, but it really depends on what it is I'm shooting at the time, and then I pluck from some of my favorite things. You've been hired to shoot a musician, and they are taking forever and a day to pay you for the work. Do you release the finished project before they complete the payment in good faith, or do you hold on to it until they fulfilled their end of the deal? 1000% hold on to it until they fulfilled their end of the deal. If they're kind of being shady about that, that is a very bad sign. First of all, you should always have contracts. Always have contracts. And inside of those contracts should be stipulation for penalties for late payment. So many days go by, X percentage is added on, whatever. That way, both parties know what the expectations are and they're held to them. People can get shady, or they all of a sudden don't have the money. You got to make sure that they're going to hold up their end of the bargain if you're holding up yours. I personally would not release the project if they were acting like this, if it seemed like they were kind of holding out on you, I would definitely hold off my end of the deal until they finished off their end of the deal. But I mean, it's up to you. Are you friends with these people? Do you trust these people? It's a call only you could make. Me personally, I don't think I would release it until I got final payment, because it sounds like they're going to try to get out of it. Last question. Do you think a FilmRiot YouTube channel would be harder to accomplish these days? Do you think starting 6 years ago and in a less saturated YouTube world definitely helped? I don't think it has anything to do with how saturated YouTube is. I think it has everything to do with how saturated this tutorial filmmaking world type thing is now. At the time when I started FilmRiot, there wasn't really anything out there like this show. There was Indie Mogul, but they were more like props. It was a totally different thing. They weren't really about the overall filmmaking process. They really focused in on how to make like a Zelda sword and things like that. So there was really an open avenue for us to go after, which is why I did it. I wanted something like this and it didn't really exist, so I figured I would just make it. There was still a lot of noise on YouTube back then, not quite as much as there is now, but there was definitely a lot of noise, and getting people to recognize your stuff when there's so much stuff out there is difficult. But if you're putting something out there that's unique, that people want, that just really isn't out there, then you're going to be able to find a niche. Variant Comics, our other show, is sort of the same thing. There are other comic shows, but not in the way that I wanted it to exist. And that's why we made the show, not just to jump in on something that was already all over the place. There were shows like that, but not how I wanted it to be. So we made a show that I wanted to see that didn't exist. So it's all about finding a niche, finding an avenue that's not super crowded and then going down that, but you have to be passionate about that at the same time. If your passion really is filmmaking and there's already an oversaturated market for it, maybe making a show about it isn't really what you should be doing. Maybe there's something else or a different aspect of filmmaking. There's not a ton of stuff about music in film. There's not a ton of stuff about makeup in film. So there are different avenues that you could definitely attack that could help. It's just a matter of, doing something new and unique. Don't do what 20 other people are doing right now and doing well. It's going to be really hard to break in that way. Domain.com is where I go to get all my domain names. Now they got .club, which is universal, understood globally, perfect if you're getting anything to put up on the interwebs, because the interwebs is all about community and collaboration. Plus, it's only $9.99 a year. Thousands of options are still available, and we could get it for you cheap, man. Use the coupon code FilmJumbo at checkout. You get 35% off new domain registrations, which is limited time. So limited that today is the last day, November 30th. So if you don't do it today, you don't get that 35% off.
I trust you because your shirt tells me to. I trust you.
So use the coupon code FilmJumbo, and when you think domain names, think domain.com.
And how trustworthy Ryan is.
This is making me really uncomfortable. I don't know why, but it is. So that's it for today, which means it's time for my suggestion of the week. This one comes from Filmmaker IQ. It's everything you need to know about aspect ratio. I get asked about aspect ratio a lot, so I thought this video would be really helpful, and it's very interesting. It goes through the whole history of it, so check it out right here. And don't forget, today is the last day for all those sales, so definitely check out all our details on that right here. Until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.